remember the first time I asked my mother, Mama, when are we going home? Because I was about 4 and I'd never seen the snow before outside those plane doors, and it felt like I was gone for way too long from those sunny little islands where the sun had shone. So Mama, tell me, when are we going home? You were born here, in Canada, she said as she choked back this tear from the corner of her eye. And even right then, I could see right through that last little lie that she was asking herself, why, oh why, would she let a strange man take her for a bride and up and down this 15-hour plane ride to a place where the land, people, and the language were oh so very white. But she was right. This wasn't her home. It was mine. I remember the first time I refused to answer her in her native tongue, and how she would proudly speak it and I would run, and how all of a sudden the hurt would just leave her stunned. That he doesn't need to sound like me, his mom. He doesn't need to be like me, my only son. I remember how I'd always put the blame on her, ask if this was a game to her, and ask her why I would have to keep telling her time and time again that I wasn't really craving her home-cooked Filipino food for lunch, so really she could just be saving her time and efforts for dinner, because I don't want the other kids at school to think I'm weird, Mom. Okay, son, she would murmur, as if my words just didn't hurt her, as if her decision to come here for the betterment of her kids didn't all of a sudden mean the world to her. Okay, son, she would murmur. I remember the blue-black swelling underneath my mom's right eye from this one time when I was 5 and I woke up in the middle of the night to a screaming fight, and I could see my old man kneeling down by my mother's side, begging her, just begging her to tell him what to do so we could make things right. We locked eyes. Go to sleep, Bryan, as they yelled from across the room, and they whipped my Nintendo Entertainment System across the wall as it split apart into a million different wires and tubes. What did I do? As I look back with those same eyes that everybody had told me my daddy had too. I remember cuddling with my mother in the separate spare room, asking her if I would get my games back soon, because I loved playing more than the sun loved the moon. Just like in those storybooks she used to read to me every weekday afternoon before we would watch cartoons. I later learned that she had read me those stories and watched those shows with me so she could learn English too. All the things one only assumes. I remember my mother's belongings slowly making their way back upstairs as she convinced herself that she didn't care, that what happened in the past was the past, and all that mattered was that we were there. Because wherever we were, she was home. I remember my mother forgiving my father for transgressions I could never really understand, because I was too young, too foolish, too self-absorbed to ever really understand what it was her and my father had really had. I remember how we watched my father die together, and how she crumpled on that hospital floor, and how I stared at this old man as he grasped for more air in his lungs, more time with his wife, as it all flashed before him, his sons, his daughters, his entire life. And as I could hear my mother's sobs stabbing softly through the air like a knife, it was then that I knew what love is. Love is what brought my mother from one land to the next. It affected her, it dissected her, it guilted my father into a mess for her, until ultimately he finally found the courage to do what was best for her. And that was to die. I remember how my mother moved on with grace and dignity, and how she came home that day from the citizenship ceremony, fulfilling her and my father's vows of holy matrimony. 5 Canadians, all in one family. 5 Canadians of the utmost of citizenry. And so I stand before you, the product of a village of roses that blossom from concrete. I stand before you because I stand on guard for thee. And I stand before you because I remember thee.